Hello and welcome everyone to this presentation on Advanced Training Program by PeopleTree Technologies. In this presentation, I will take you through evolution of software development over past 20 years. We will talk about Java 8 as a special mention, and then we will learn about Advanced Training Program, its features and benefits. I am Raghav, and once again I welcome you to this presentation. Software development ecosystem. For many years, many of us visualized a software application as an interaction between a front end, which is the user interface, and a back end, the brain of the application. But over a period of years, the software technology changed leaps and bounds. Before going any further, I would like to say that audience of this presentation may include some technical and also some non-technical people from the software technology point of view. For the non-technicals, the only point to grab or to focus would be how the technology changed or evolved over years, and what is the current need for technology for better employability. So let's move on to the slides. Evolution of software development ecosystem. In this slide, I will show you how the technology landscape changed over every 5 years. We have taken into account a period of about 20 years to show this change. Now, this time period shown here is not the time of starting or the launch of that technology, but it shows when the technology adoption achieved its stability and maturity in the Indian market. So this is in relation to the Indian market context. Here is our timeline. Here is a typical 3-layered application, which is broadly divided into 3 layers. A UI layer with 2 divisions, a UI design layer and a UI behavior layer. The UI design layer, which holds the screen design code, HTML, CSS, etc. And the UI behavior layer, which holds the fancy effects, the communication with the server, and the validation code. An application layer or the middle layer, which has 3 divisions, the presentation layer that accepts the request and generates the response, the service layer that holds all the business logic, the rules, or I can say the real brain of the application, and the data access layer, which is responsible for sending and receiving data to and from the server. Starting from year 2000 to 2005, let's look at what were the prominent technologies in this time frame. So starting from the UI layer in 2000 to 2005, the key UI design technologies were HTML4 and CSS for the UI design, and JavaScript, or what we call as a pure JavaScript or vanilla JavaScript, was used to code for the UI behavior. Moving on to the application layer, the development for all the 3 application layers, that is the presentation, the service layer and the data access layer, was primarily done using J2EE based technologies. Servlets in JSP, EJB, entity beans. And coming on to the middleware, here we can see the middleware, which is enclosing this entire application. So once the application code has been written, it is packaged, and the running code, the running application resides in a container which is called a web server. These are the middlewares. So the most popular web server at that time was Apache Tomcat, and it is still one of the most popular. And for the application servers, there were a couple of other options like the WebLogic, the WebSphere, Solaris by Sun Microsystems, JBoss, which I've missed here. Now coming on to the management of code repositories. Well, this was another important aspect. teams require code repositories to maintain their code and the code history, the history for the different versions of the application, so that in case if there's some problem with the current version of the application, then they can roll back to a previous version or any of the old version back and forth. So CVS was the most popular technology at that point of time for code management. And then coming on to the build management, which is like once the code has been written, then it is packaged into a shippable application, a product that is deployed onto the middleware. And this packaging is done using it was done using Apache Ant in those days. I remember we used to write Ant scripts. And finally, the popular options for the database technology were Oracle, DB2, Postgres, MySQL, SQL Server, which I have not mentioned here. Well, now moving on to the 2005 to 2010, the next 5 years, some new technologies came in and a few went out. Starting with the UI side, there were two new revolutionary technologies on the UI side that totally changed the software market. These were Ajax and jQuery. Ajax by Microsoft totally revolutionized the way interaction was done between the UI and the server. It did not require refresh of the entire page or reloading of the entire page. Only the data could be passed to and from between the UI, the client, and the server. And the jQuery, which is a library primarily built on Ajax. Now coming to the middle layer. In the middle layer, the J2E technologies were a little too basic or a little too hard to handle. As a result, they were replaced by several ready-made frameworks. So these were replaced by some ready-made frameworks which were more or less a wrapper on top of these technologies. So here we can see on the presentation layer Apache struts, JSF, wickets, and on the service layer, Spring IOC totally captured the market for managing the service layer. And the smartest data access technology by Gavin King totally swayed the market at that point of time. Now coming on to the next 5 years, that is 2010 to 2015. This was an era of rich internet applications with e-commerce booming. People expected richer online experience to beat the competition. So on the UI layer, we saw a lot of technologies moving out. HTML4 was not that cooler anymore. Pure Ajax was important but not used as it is. Again, CSS was not effective for that point of time. Same was the situation on the application side for on the middle layer. For faster application development, more intelligent frameworks were expected. As a result, these frameworks like Apache struts or JSF or Apache wickets started to move out gradually. Even the CVS code management and build management went out of the picture because they were very difficult to operate and manage. With the CVS server, if two developers were working on the same file, had to work on the same file, then one had to wait until the other would release that file. So it was more or less a sequential work while working on the same file. So there was little concept of merging things. So, and also there was a big setback to the application server industry, and it happened because of this technology called Spring. It creates its own container, a kind of a server, in which the application can run. So the application servers went out of the picture, and as I told you, even the CVS servers and Apache Ant, which required a lot of script writing, also went out of the picture. Now these technologies were replaced by some new technologies: HTML5 instead of HTML4, CSS3 instead of the previous version of CSS, and then Bootstrap was an advanced CSS framework and very useful in designing, in creating a rich internet application. Then you can see that Struts, JSF, and Wickets kind of frameworks were replaced by Spring-based frameworks, Spring MVC, Spring Security. And the code management, for the code management, CVS and Ant were replaced by SVN, Subversion, and Maven. It ruled the market. Now coming on to the post-2015 era. Now this was an era of technologies with breaking change at all layers, starting with the UI layer. At that point of time, like in the beginning of 2015, now jQuery being the most popular JavaScript framework was gradually pushed away by another revolutionary framework, which is AngularJS, and very soon this was by Google, and very soon Google introduced the next version, which was Angular 2. Now the difference between AngularJS and Angular 2 was for AngularJS the base language was JavaScript. For Angular 2 TypeScript was preferred instead of JavaScript because of its object-oriented behavior. Now AngularJS brought about a breaking change in the thought process of client-server application in the web context. Prior to AngularJS, the interaction between the server and the user interface was through HTML as well as JSON. But AngularJS changed it all, and it popularized SPA-based applications, single-page applications, which totally interacted using JSON. So HTML was more or less out of the picture, and with AngularJS, where the UI is loaded once, and then it is only interaction of data, the transfer of data to and fro between the UI and the server. Another very popular technology that started to lose sheen post 2015, it was built on JDBC, and it gradually started to show signs of weakness, was Hibernate. It's still very popular, but its popularity is waning, and it's not because of any problem with the Hibernate, but because Hibernate is most powerful with the relational databases, but gradually people are moving away from relational databases to NoSQL based repositories. So Hibernate is still used, but it's starting to move out gradually. And it was replaced with Spring Data because of NoSQL based technologies, and we'll come to NoSQL in a little while. Now you can see the entire application layer, or the middle layer, is totally ruled by Spring based technology: Spring MVC, Spring Security, Spring IOC, Spring Data. This allows me to introduce the complete list of modules under the Spring suite. You can see here at the bottom right that there are a lot of modules under the Spring suite. We have Reactor, Android, Mobile, Security, Spring Framework, Batch, Integration, Webflow, Social, Cloud, XT, ATOS. We have MQ. We have Root, Web Services, Data. Coming on to the code management, SVN started moving out, giving way to Git, which is now a popular choice for most of the companies. And next, another important technology I would like to tell you about is about build automation. So now, with a booming e-commerce industry, you wanted faster releases and more accurate releases. So the client does not want to wait till the end of the release to see for the first time how the application looks like. They want continuous status on the application. So therefore, it is required that the code should be regularly integrated into the servers, mostly the staging servers, the testing servers for the client. So a technology that allowed continuous build and deployment of the application is called CI, continuous integration, and Hudson is a very popular tool that implements CI for us, Bamboo being another one. And also to mention that GitLab also provides us the feature of continuous integration. At this point, I would like to introduce cloud as a technology. Post 2015, we saw a massive adoption of cloud-based technologies, which allowed the middleware and the database to be moved to cloud-based infrastructure. This enabled the companies to maintain their software infrastructure with ease at a click of a button and at a lower cost. So if we wanted to add another node to our database cluster or scale our application server or maybe our web server, then we can do it just at a click of a button. Next, we show you the changes in the database layer. Post 2015, we saw a reluctance of the market towards continuing with the relational databases. And the adoption of NoSQL based technologies gained momentum. So technologies like MongoDB, Cassandra, Amazon Dynamo, Redis, and another graphical database like Neo4j started to gain momentum. And one reason why it started gaining momentum is that with the relational database technologies, we understood that the data from the SPA-like applications or AJAX-based applications was being transferred using JSON. And the question was, why should it be converted into a tabular form? Because it requires some internal processing. Why not keep the data as it is in a JSON form? So, so this thought was one of the primary reasons why having NoSQL based databases, or we should call them repositories, that maintained the data in JSON form. And before I forget, I would mention some of the popular cloud products that provide platform as a service. So here we have the cloud products. We have Google Cloud, we have Amazon Web Service, and we have Microsoft Azure. Another technology that is currently being adopted at a very high rate is Docker, that helps teams quickly create a development setup. And this can be understood as a super enhancement on virtualization. Now I can't go into the details of virtualization because it is out of scope of this this presentation. It will consume a lot of time, but I hope the technology experts can explain it. Now, there are few more important tools and technologies. So in the previous slides, we have seen some of the very important and basic ones, but there are few more tools and technologies. Caching and indexing. So caching and indexing technology is for faster retrieval of data. So in a situation, consider on a website, you must have seen that in a search box you enter some data, and all of a sudden you will see a list of options that populate in a drop down as you keep typing. So these kind of applications require faster access of data. That data could be coming from a indexing server, or maybe as you type there's a list that keeps getting filtered. So these kind of applications require caching and indexing. Caching and indexing can also be done on the application side. Terracotta is one such application, one such tool that provides us external caching mechanism based on caching. Coming on to documentation and reporting, tools that help us generate dynamic reports to be shipped out, for example, the invoices, the tickets, the business reports, which need to be shipped out on daily, weekly, monthly, or annual basis. Process management is for managing development process, mainly agile based. Quality assurance, which is very important for testing tools. So here we have Selenium for automated testing. We have Cucumber for business, for behavior driven development. We have TestNG that helps us create a test suite. We have Mockito that is used for mocking while creating JUnit test cases. Then SonarQube, it helps us in in assuring quality of the code. It performs static code analysis and also the test coverage, and also scans for the complexity of the application, the complexity of the code. Well, BPM and rule engines allow us to manage rules in applications that have a very dynamic or changing business rules or policies. So rules, JBPM, activity, Camunda, JRules are some of the examples of such tools. And social media apps, as the name suggests, for managing and manipulating authorized social media data. And then some developer tools and IDs. These are utilities for easier development. Eclipse, IntelliJ, there are some other Sublime Text, brackets on the UI side, and on the database it could be like Oracle Developer, Toad, or maybe Compass for MongoDB. And then coming on to the data analytics, which is data analytics tools for mining humongous amounts of data, mainly for strategic decision making by top level management. Now, going further into the essential skill set, there is an important question that arises, is how has the industry expectation changed in last decade from the employee role point of view. Let's see how has the structure of the teams changed. Now from this slide, as we can see, 10 years ago a project had three main developmental roles: a web designer who would design the UI, an application developer who would design the brain of the application, and a database administrator who would design the memory of the application, the way data is retrieved or inserted. But now what the industry expects is a combination of all the three roles in every developer, in a single developer, what is called as a full stack developer. The benefit of a full stack developer is reduced dependency and low cost. Now, well, for considering the industrial viewpoint on the essential skill set, so based on the previous slides, we have just filtered out the essential skill set that currently makes candidates highly employable, and it would also reduce the employability gap. So as you can see, these are the technologies that we have covered: HTML5, CSS3, Bootstrap, Angular, JavaScript or TypeScript. Java 8, we have a special slide. There's a special mention. We have a different slide on this. Spring IOC, Spring Security, Spring MVC, Spring Data. These are the minimum Spring modules that should be known by the candidates. And MongoDB as a futuristic technology. And why MongoDB? Because a very popular mining or data analytics framework, Hadoop, uses MongoDB as a backend. Well, for code management, SVN Kit Maven, for IDE, Eclipse, and we can also take up IntelliJ. Process, Agile as a concept, we should know Agile as a concept, and both the flavors, Scrum and Kanban, and Jira or Rally, these are the tools, Agile tools. Now Java 8. This is a special mention on Java 8. Why I wish to touch upon this topic for Java 8? Well, this version of Java 8 was a breaking change in Java's approach towards building applications. Now, in the coming slides, we will see why Java 8 is so important and what makes it so much in demand. So, why is Java 8 so much in demand? So, here are the reasons. Number one, better readability. Now, without going much into the technical details, you can see the two blue blocks, code blocks. The top one is bigger because it has more number of lines. So this code is sorting something, and the same code in Java 8 can be written in a single line. So you can see that here there is an 80% reduction in code. So it is not always 80% reduction, but yes, there is a significant reduction in code which increases readability and also the file sizes. Better performance. Now this is the most important reason why industry is looking forward to Java 8 professionals, and why is Java 8 so important to the industry. Well, as you can see that prior to Java 8, for processing data, the virtual machine always used a single core. So you can see in this diagram, on the top diagram before Java 8, only one core was used for processing the data, and the remaining cores were not used. But after Java 8, you can see the entire data processing is uniformly distributed across different cores, so it saves a lot of cost in hardware upgradation. Then Java also promotes reusability. As you can see, I've taken up a scenario where I need to filter certain items by weight and also by color, and you can see here is the same piece of code can do both the things. So now consider a situation where I have 10 more filtering scenarios. I can use the same piece of code to do the job for all the 10 scenarios. It is a good example of reusability as well as separation of concerns. Then fault tolerance. Well, Java 8 codes are more fault tolerant due to this optional interface, and sometimes it saves us from embarrassing situations where there's a exception that is caused into the application in production, and the screen starts to show some unwanted information. So now we are saved. Java 8 saves us from that kind of an embarrassing situation because of the optional interface. Now, advanced training program. We have come to the much awaited topic of advanced training program. What is it? What we are providing here? Advanced training program. The purpose. Well, the next three graphics will show you the main purpose behind this advanced training program. Well, it reduces the skill gap or the employability gap between a fresher and an employed professional. Secondly, it will help in improving remuneration because of so many number of engineers being churned out every year across India. There is a lot of supply as compared to the demand. There is demand, no doubt, but there is a lot of supply, so which results in poorer remuneration until and unless you have your technology stack is updated, something that the industry is looking forward to. Then the remuneration can be really good. And then to maximize the placements, some of the institutions do not have this problem of placements. They have a pretty good placement, but at the same time, they are not very happy with the kind of remuneration on which the candidates are going. So that is where also the ATP program will certainly help. Now here is the training structure for the primary training of advanced training program. So you can see we have three different tracks. The server tracks, which helps in training on the server-side programming. So here the technologies are Java 8, Spring IOC, Spring MVC, Spring Authentication, Spring AOP. That's the minimum stack. And on the database track, we have MongoDB and Spring Data. On the UI track, we have HTML5, CSS3, Bootstrap 4, JavaScript, and AngularJS. Alternatively, we can also go for TypeScript and Angular 2 or Angular 4. Now for the secondary training, we have code and build track, wherein we can train on SVN and Git and Maven as a technology. And for process track, we have Agile and Agile Scrum and some other tool, probably Jira or Rally or Target Process. Now training methodology, which to me is very important. We have what we call as 595 training. So this is lab training, which means 5% of training through board, 5% of board training, and 95% of terminal training, that is practical training. And study material, I personally do not encourage candidates to take down notes during the session, so that they can focus completely on the training session. So study material will be provided prior to the session. And topic assignments, practical topic based assignments. So these could be sometimes specific industrial problems based on the topic. Then topic interviews, and this is very important. After every 4 or 5 chapters or key topics, we will conduct an interview for self-assessment and also guidance on communication, because some candidates are good at verbal communication, so they can go ahead completing the interview in a verbal way. And those who are not very comfortable in a verbal interview, we can guide them on how to use pen and paper to achieve their objective. Then team project. Well, we'll be providing domain specific team projects in a team comprising of 5 members each, and this will be an agile based project, just like a professional team. This is where they will learn the real culture and also get to know their weaknesses and strength, and it will it will also build up their confidence. So now this is about me. Well, I'm Raghav, and I'm a professional with 10+ years of experience as a software engineer, a team lead, and an entrepreneur with some of the top services companies of the world, including like Capgemini, which has more than 260,000 employees, JP Morgan Chase, that does not require any introduction. It is the world's biggest bank, the bank which financed Thomas Edison in electrification of America. Nest Technologies, very good company. I learned a lot from this company. It's an Israeli company, and it adapts to new technologies very fast. And Polaris, now this company, it was a CMM 4-level company that was very fast growing, and it was acquired by Cognizant at one point. Trigen Technologies, they're doing a really great job for United Nations subsidiary called WIPO, World Intellectual Property Rights Organization. And then coming on to some of the clients that I've worked for is Pearson Education for the digital products, Citibank for the payment gateways, WIPO for kind of distribution platform, resource distribution platform called a Stigar, and then Lampiris, which is a very fast growing energy company in Belgium. Apart from that, I would also like to share one of my mottos, which says, in our individual capacity through our professions, we have a great responsibility towards our nation, and I do believe in it. So thank you everyone, and before I leave, here's a quick message from my side. Let's save water, trees, and time. Thank you everyone. Hope you enjoyed this session.